Today we're going to be talking about multiplying and dividing real numbers. And there are certain rules for multiplication and division. For multiplication, a positive times a positive equals a positive. A negative times a positive equals a negative. Positive times a negative is a negative. And a negative times a negative equals a positive. For division, the rules are the same. A positive divided by a positive equals a positive. A negative divided by a positive equals a negative. A positive divided by a negative is a negative. And a negative divided by a negative is a positive. All right, so we're going to find the value of each expression. A positive divided by a positive here is a positive. 35 divided by 5 is 7. Negative 11 times negative 4. A negative times a negative is a positive. Multiply the numbers, we get 44. Let's do 6x for x equals 7. Negative 6 times positive 7. In other words, negative times a positive is a negative, and then just do your multiplication as normal. Negative 6 times 7 would give you negative 42. Okay, so moving on. We can also do this with fractions. 1/2 times negative 10. Well, let's make the negative 10 into a fraction. So we'll put a 1 underneath it. Remember how we canceled? Think of this. Here's your multiplication sign, or you can put a dot there. 2 goes into 2 once. 2 goes into negative 10, negative 5 times, because a negative divided by a positive is a negative. Multiply right across. 1 times negative 5 is negative 5. 1 times 1 is 1. So we get negative 5. Next, negative 48 divided by negative 4. Negative divided by a negative is a positive. You can even write in the little plus to remind you. 48 divided by 4 is 12. So we get positive 12. Next, negative 3x for x equals 2/3. So that means we have negative 3 times 2 over 3. Well, let's make the negative 3 into a fraction by putting a 1 underneath it. Notice what's happening here. You can cancel. Divide by 3. 3 goes into 3 once. 3 goes into negative 3, negative 1 times. So negative 1. Oh, and by the way, for 1 and 2, we would just get the same numbers back because we can only divide by 1. So let's multiply across. Negative 1 times 2 is negative 2. 1 times 1 is 1. Negative 2 divided by positive 1 is negative 2. Next, we have negative 3/4 divided by negative 9. Now, whenever you divide, you have to change your division to multiplication and take the reciprocal of the second fraction. Now remember, negative 9 is like having negative 9 over 1. So let's just change it around. We've got 1 over negative 9 now, where we're taking the reciprocal. Is there anything we can cancel? Negative 3 and negative 9? We sure can. What number will go into both of those? Well, 3 will. And so let's do that. 3 goes into negative 3 negative 1 times. 3 goes into negative 9 negative 3 times. Nothing would change with the 1 and 4. We could only divide both of them by 1. So now we'll multiply across. Negative 1 times 1 is negative 1. 4 times negative 3 is negative 12. We can't really reduce it, but we can change the sign because a negative divided by a negative equals a positive. So this is the same as having positive 1/12. Let's move on. We have 3/10 divided by negative 6/5. So we're changing our division to multiplication and take the reciprocal of the second fraction. Let's see if we can cancel. Well, 3 and negative 6 we can divide by 3. 3 goes into 3 once. It goes into negative 6 negative 2 times. 5 and 10 we'll divide by 5. 5 goes into 5 once. 5 goes into 10 twice. Multiply straight across. So we have 1 times 1 is 1. 2 times negative 2 is negative 4. You can leave your answer like that. By the way, that's the same thing as having negative 1/4. with the negative in front, or you could even say negative 1 over 4. It doesn't matter where the negative goes. It can go in the numerator, it can go in the denominator, or it can go in front of the whole fraction. It just can't go in front of all three places or in more than one spot. Okay, so next one. We have negative 5/6 divided by 1 2/3. First thing we're going to have to do, let's change this mixed number to an improper fraction before we do anything. So we're saying 3 times 1 plus 2. Well, 3 times 1 is 3 plus 2 is 5. So this is the same as having negative 5/6 divided by 5/3. Now we will change our division to multiplication and take the reciprocal of the second fraction. So what number will go into both negative 5 and 5? Well, that would be 5. 5 goes into negative 5 negative 1 time. 5 goes into positive 5 1 time. 3 and 6. What number will go into both? 3. 3 goes into 3 once. 3 goes into 6 twice. Now we'll multiply straight across. Negative 1 times 1 is negative 1, and 2 times 1 is 2. So we end up with negative 1/2. All right? Now, moving on. We want to talk about some properties of 0. These are probably things that you know already. Maybe not. Either way, it's fine. The product of any number and 0 is 0. So if I took 5 times 0, I would get 0. If I took 0 times 1/2, I would get 0. In other words, when I multiply any number and 0 together, I get 0. The quotient of 0 in any non-zero number is 0. So in other words, if I took 0 divided by 10, that is 0. If I took 0 divided by negative 2/3, that is 0. The one thing that doesn't work is division by 0. It's undefined. So if I took 10 divided by 0, or if I set it up as a fraction, 10 over 0, that is undefined. You cannot divide by 0. And I can't emphasize that enough. But in fact, let's rewrite that. The same rule means you cannot divide by 0. So that's something that you've got to remember. All right. Now, let's move on. Let's look at a word problem here. We've got the speed of a hot air balloon is 3 3/4 miles per hour. It travels in a straight line for 1 1/3 hours before landing. How many miles away from the liftoff site will the balloon land? Well, this leads us to a new formula that we're going to be using. You may have seen this before somewhere, maybe not. Either way is fine. This is rate times time equals distance. So if we know the rate of the hot air balloon and we know how far it travels at that rate, we can figure out how long it travels at that rate, I should say. We can figure out how far that it travels. So we do know the rate. The rate is 3 3/4 miles per hour. And if I took that and I multiplied it by how long it traveled at that rate, which would be 1 1/3 hours, that would give me the distance. That would give me the answer to my question. So let's go ahead and do that. First of all, let's change 3 3/4 to an improper fraction, and 1 1/3 as well. So we're going to say 4 times 3 is 12, plus 3 is 15. So we have 15/4. Changing 1 1/3. 3 times 1 is 3, and 1 more is 4. So we have 4/3. So now we're going to multiply those fractions together. If we can cancel, let's go ahead. Well, we can cancel by 4s. 4 goes into 4 once. 4 goes into 4 once. I meant to write down. I'll change that. Now 15 and 3 we can divide by 3. 3 goes into 3 once. It goes into 15 5 times. Let's multiply. So we have 5 times 1 is 5. 1 times 1 is 1. And we end up with a distance of 5 miles. So that's how far the balloon traveled in the 1 1/3 hours when it was traveling at 3 3/4 miles per hour. Thank you very much for joining me. We'll see you next time.